For years, Fire Emblem has had excellent music. Ever since the series hit the 3DS, all the soundtracks have been real bangers. Not saying that there weren't any bops before the 3DS era, just most games had either a really killer soundtrack or had very samey songs throughout, and that were sometimes plagued by that god-awful GBA sound chip. Fire Emblem Awakening began the trend of fantastic music. Fates followed it up with a stellar soundtrack. Even the spin-off games, Fire Emblem Heroes, Tokyo Sessions, and Fire Emblem Warriors had all pretty memorable and pleasant soundtracks that were begging to be replayed. And then the 3DS era capped off with Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia, what many consider to have some of the most bomb-ass songs in the whole history of Fire Emblem. And recently, Fire Emblem Three Houses released. Does this soundtrack live up to its predecessors? Does it continue that constant music high that the 3DS titles had? My short answer? No. My medium answer? It's not as great as previous games, but it's still good. And here's my long answer. Three Houses is a good soundtrack that complements a solid game, but it's not as spectacular as previous entries. At least in my opinion. I'm sure some of you think that this album is one of the best in the series, and I respect that. It's just not one of my personal favorites. I hope you can respect my views and my opinions like I would respect yours. Unless you think the Game Boy Advance sounds good, then I can't respect that. I want to make it clear that I'm not trashing this game. Three Houses has issues, but it's still a very good game. I'm only judging and discussing its soundtrack. Bad games can have great soundtracks, and great games can have bad soundtracks. Just look at Radiant Dawn! I love that damn thing, but wow, 90% of the tracks sound so similar. Enough prefacing, let's get into this. Everyone knows the motif. If you don't know the motif, that's the motif. That damn tune is in every single song. Okay, not really. But Three Houses loves to use this motif. I don't blame them, it's pretty good. But it's in a fair amount of songs. A little bit too many if you ask me. So when I'm talking about the motif, just know it's this little tune. Okay, you got that? Okay, great. I just don't want to confuse anyone. Let's talk about some battle music, yeah? Surprisingly, and unlike most Fire Emblem games, I find the battle songs to be the least interesting portion of the soundtrack. Of course, we have greats, like Blue Skies in the Battle, the final map themes, and Roar of Dominion. But most tracks are just blah. Every battle map also has a thunder arrangement to it, which is just a more intense version. This has been a staple in the past two original Fire Emblem games, Awakening and Fates, and I've typically enjoyed them just as much, if not more, than the calm versions. But this time, I just can't vibe with it. The heavy drums that dominate the song just take me out of it. I'm just weak. Anyway, let's begin with Fodlan Winds, the song that 99% of players will remember and probably will all love, and will definitely be in the next Smash Brothers game. Put simply, I just don't like this song. I listened to Fodlan Winds a bit before the game released, and I enjoyed it for a few missions in Three Houses, But after maybe 5 hours of gameplay, I changed the song because it becomes so grating. I fully expect to be flamed for this opinion, but the monotony kills me. The motif in the song is nice, but the music that surrounds the motif is just ear-numbing after a while. I look back to Awakening and Fates and see the tracks Conquest and Road Taken, and those two songs are just so splendid. I could listen to them for hours. With Fodlan Winds, I just can't listen to that more than twice without getting a little annoyed. It's not an awful song, it just doesn't hold up for multiple listens for me. You can love it all you want, everybody seems to love this song, and I respect your opinions, I'm just not a fan. I will say, I'm very thankful that I can set much better songs for skirmishes in the option menu, which we'll come back to. But Fodlan Winds is not my biggest letdown when it comes to battle music. Oh no! Dwellings of the Ancient Gods. This song is just... What is this song? The most unfitting battle music I've heard in all of Fire Emblem. It's slow, it's boring, I honestly could fall asleep to the calm version of this track, and even the Thunder version, where it's more intense, is just lame. It's just bland. Now you see, I wouldn't hate on this song that much, but the biggest issue is that it plays during some of the most pivotal and climatic chapters, such as Chapter 11. It destroys all tension and momentum. Why is this a battle song? I want to sleep! I don't want to fight! Anyway, Tearing Through Heaven is pretty good. I'm actually quite a fan of it. Thing that bothers me is that it constantly reminds me of My Hero by Foo Fighters. Just listen to this. There goes my hero. It sounds like they cut off the final word in that sentence, and it's just the same, and I just cannot unhear it, and it bothers me. Even with that, it's a great song. I really enjoy this one. Also, Roar of Dominion is pretty rad. I don't have much to say beyond that because it's just pretty good. When I first heard Chasing Daybreak, I was super pumped. I just hit the time skip, no more Fodlan Winds, a whole new setting. It was perfect. But then time went on, and I heard it a lot. And with each listen, I felt more and more detached from it. It's a satisfactory song for entering a new era, and is wonderful at first within the game, but it overstays its welcome, and it's not that impactful without context from the game. I think I like Fodlan Winds more than this one actually, which says a lot. Tempest of Seasons is okay, it's just kind of an average song and it gets the job done. Yeah, it's fine. Paths That Will Never Cross is one of my more liked battle songs. I feel like that song flows so naturally and has such a lovely midsection that has me grooving every time it graces my ears. Such an underrated tune. Also, please let me just sidebar real fast, as we cannot talk about battle themes without addressing the wonderful and beautiful elephant in the room. As swift as wind. The Part 1 Battle Preparations theme is one of the absolute greatest preparation themes in all of Fire Emblem. I could listen to this all day. This is so catchy, so motivational, so filled with life. It kinda sucks that it comes before some real snooze fest, though. I'm looking at you, dwellings of the ancient gods. Part 2 Battle Preparations is alright. It's a downgrade. It's like the biggest downgrade since Other M. I couldn't have a video over 10 minutes and not mention Metroid. Can you blame me? Now the song you've been waiting to hear about. Blue skies and a battle. This song, this masterpiece. I've been in love with this song since the E3 2019 trailer for this game, and when I heard it in the game for the first time, I lost my mind. It's so captivating, it's so intense, it's so raw. This song will go down in Fire Emblem history as one of the greats. It's the perfect amount of intensity, it maintains a superb melody that's familiar yet fresh. This is my personal favorite track in the game. It's outstanding. It's amazing. Even the Thunder version of it absolutely slays. And what's better is that they made this tune even more ferocious with another song titled Between Heaven and Earth. If Blue Skies didn't go hard enough for you, this one will be the iceberg to your Titanic. The added vocals, the added horns, the added drums, they all come together to craft a more bloodthirsty and more bone-shattering rhythm that will have you shook for days. How it moves from an intense chanting to a more melodic and eerie vocal section that's backed by glorious, oh so glorious strings. Then it just smacks you in the face with the return of vigorous chanting. And then slows back down to a string solo. It's a sublime movement that we will praise for years. While I could scream about both songs, I think I still prefer Blue Skies over Heaven and Earth because it just hits the right vigor for my taste. These two songs are the strongest battle themes, but let's not forget about some wonderful, wonderful runner-ups, the final map themes. The final map themes are super interesting to me in Three Houses. There are 3 in total that play during 3 separate routes, and they all sound incredibly different from each other, which is great. First we have A Funeral of Flowers. Now this song definitely fits in with the rest of the soundtrack of Three Houses. I feel like it's the natural final map theme. It's a pretty boppin' song, probably my least favorite of the 3, but the strings, oh, they give me life. They give me life. In that Thunder version, It's so good! Then we have the apex of the world. This is what everyone expected for a final boss theme, going off of Awakening and Fate's trends. It's a brilliant take on the main theme. Some argue this is the greatest song in the game, and I will agree that it's definitely up there. It represents the more recent Fire Emblem soundtracks very well. Finally, we have God-Shattering Star, which is the most fitting name because it shatters. This song was so violent that Nintendo sent out copyright takedowns to preserve humanity because this song has murdered millions. But honestly, this is my absolute favorite of the three. It is phenomenal. It doesn't sound like anything we've heard in the previous original titles, like Awakening and Fates. Instead, it definitely harkens back to a personal favorite title of mine, and the most recent Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. This would fit perfectly in that soundtrack. It feels very out of place on Three Houses, but it's so goddamn epic that I can let it slide. It's fine to have some songs that don't fit in with the rest of the soundtrack, as long as they're good and can stand on their own. But there's a handful of songs that make the players scratch their head asking, what the f*** is this?
By those who slither in the dark.
Now I could whine about those who slither in the dark for literal hours and how they ruin Three Houses. But I'm just gonna whine about their music instead. Shambhala, Javelin of Light, The Curse. These three songs are so incredibly out of place. They don't even sound like they belong on this soundtrack. They're so musically different. I enjoy dubstep and electronic music, and I find The Curse to be the best of the three, which says a lot, but the other two are just awkward when you compare it to the rest of the songs. It's fine to have a diverse soundtrack, but they're too different. Sure, electronic music is hinted in the main theme, but that's about it. No other song in the entire soundtrack hints at this genre at all. It just comes out of nowhere, which I guess was their intention. They wanted it to feel like an advanced society, but they didn't have to exit the soundtrack's norms to achieve that. Just look at Mother 3's soundtrack, for example. Bless this soundtrack. Bless this soundtrack. Mother 3 is all about the advancement of technology, and the soundtrack reflects that. It slowly changes into a more sci-fi sounding tune as the game progresses. A bit more progression towards the electronic wub 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 genre would have been more appreciated instead of abruptly shoving it in our faces. Those Who Slither in the Dark literally ruined so much of this game, including the soundtrack. It's actually infuriating. They make me so angry. Why did intelligent systems think it was a good idea? Why are they so caught up on their old ways that they needed to have them in here? And for it to affect the music this much is criminal and frustrating. I can't even listen.
Welcome to Intermission.
let's chill out now and talk about something that greases my gears. The slice of life music, the chill music, the music you could play in your everyday life and it would fit perfectly. A gentle breeze, a promise, somewhere to belong. These songs are just so beautiful and fit the atmosphere so well. A Promise is easily my favorite. The Three Houses motif in it delivers a feeling of optimism about the future. It's calming, but also energetic. And it never fails to put a smile on my face. White Heron Waltz is a short tune that makes my heart flutter with excitement. Recollection and Regret is deep, but soothing and mysterious. It invokes mixed emotions for such a simple song. The Officers Academy is a very cinematic song that just makes you feel like you've been teleported to the actual academy while listening. What a gem! And Life at Garrick Mach Monastery is a song I want to be played every single day of my life. It's the perfect song for walking around and getting stuff done. Oh, I would be like 100 times more productive if I had this playing in my mind every day. But then I think I'd really despise that track. Like Fodlan Winds. The one thing I was really surprised by, and the one thing I really wish for, is a more calm fishing theme. This is way too intense for fishing, okay? What is this? Alright. Another obligatory song I had to talk about is Beneath the Banner, the recruitment theme in Three Houses. This song is just so flaccid compared to previous ones. It's weaker than the weakest ones. It's so weak, it's so underwhelming, it's so anemic, feeble, fragile, frail, hesitant, powerless. To be fair, recent Fire Emblem recruitment themes haven't been that fire in my opinion. Even Awakening had a lackluster tune that ignited precisely 0% excitement when I recruited a character. And like Beneath the Banner, there are, of course, some less interesting tracks in this category, but I find the majority of calm songs to be wonderful additions to my playlist of relaxing video game music. But let's talk romance for a minute. There's the love theme. Well, there's two of them. There's the Night of the Ball. And man, I'm a huge sucker for melodic strings, and I'm a huge sucker for romance music. So this song was made for me. Play this at my wedding in 40 years whenever I find someone who can beat me at Pikmin multiplayer, because that's a requirement before I propose to someone or someone proposes to me. Although this song is awkwardly thrown in after the credits. I still really don't get that, but it fits, and it's still glorious. I love it. Dance with me, Claude. Then we have the other romance theme, A Place to Rest. This plays when you're finally putting a ring on it, or being told that they have a family and the S support was meaningless. This tune is really nice, and very fitting for the most romantic moment, or should be the most romantic moment in the game, I definitely prefer Night of the Ball to this, but this song does just fine for a more subtle, loving moment. It makes my soul so happy.
Thank you for everything.
But how about more of these slice of life songs, but with vocals? There are only 2, technically 3, technically 4 songs with vocals in this game. 3 versions of The Edge of Dawn, and the Song of Napatians. I cannot pronounce that. I'll just call it the Song of Nab.
In times flow, see the glow of flames ever burning bright.
The Song of the Nab is a gorgeous song that's so peaceful, so full of heart, and it's very fitting to the scenes it appears in. I'm a huge fan of it, and I listen to it often because it's very calming. It's so nice. It's definitely the inferior vocal track, though. Let's talk about The Edge of Dawn. There are 3 versions of this song. The one that's in the main theme, which is my personal favorite version, the short version, and then there's the full version that plays during the credits. And they're all brilliant.
Reach for my hand, I'll soar away into the dawn. No, I wish I could stay here and cherish hope in peaceful days. I fear the edge of dawn, knowing time betrays.
I don't have much to say about the song, it honestly speaks for itself. But I think it's one of my favorite vocal Fire Emblem tracks, if not my favorite. Probably more than Heritors of Arcadia, which says a lot. The main theme version is my favorite because it mixes the best version of the motif and the chorus, and it blends so well together, so gracefully. Please go listen to all 3 versions, they're all so different in many ways, and I think that's just masterful composition. And speaking of masterful composition, every game has to end. And what happens at the end? One of the most important segments for a soundtrack: the credits. Nintendo games in general are pretty hit or miss with credits. But wow, 3 Houses kills it. More specifically, the results theme. A Star in the Morning Sky. Colin Keanu, because this is just breathtaking. Even though I despised the first ending I got in 3 Houses, this song cheered me up a bit. Still not enough for me to forgive that jank-ass ending, though. The constant strings are accompanied by beautiful drums and horns. It's wonderful. It sounds so good. It eventually rises and becomes more and more intense. Before dropping down low to that so lovely Fire Emblem theme we all know so well. This is easily one of the best tracks in the f***ing game. It is simply beyond fantastic and such a beautiful love letter to the main theme. And then after the results theme, it transitions into the Edge of Dawn. And the Edge of Dawn, I've already talked about how great it is, but it's so great! Oh, 3 Houses, you killed me. The last 10 minutes of your game just murdered me. We've covered most every song, But Three Houses has this incredible feature that I thank the intelligence system's gods for putting in, because it got me away from Fodlan Winds. Tap a Fire Emblem amiibo and you'll get yourself a track from their game. I shouldn't really rate these songs or talk about them because they don't originate from this game, but I'll hit you with my brief opinions on them. Time to Act, a great classic hit from Marth's game. You can't go wrong with this one. March of the Deliverance, it's a great song, just don't listen to it too much. Like Fodlan Winds, it becomes pretty dull after a while. With Milla's Divine Protection, oh, perfection. Absolute perfection. I will never get sick of this song. Beneath a New Light. Wonderful song that deserved a remaster that isn't on that terrible, god-awful GBA sound system. Oh, it's terrible. Eternal Bond. Killer. I had this one playing a lot. One of the few really standout songs from Radiant Dawn. Conquest of Blaze, one of my favorite Fire Emblem songs ever. Listen to this one often. This is just phenomenal. Destiny Ablaze, another killer song. Oh my god, why does Awakening have such a godly soundtrack? What the f***? Id Purpose. I'm still not a fan of the song myself, but I know a lot of people love it. I just really don't care for that choir that jumps in halfway. Everything surrounding that choir is pretty good. It's an okay song. A Dark Fall Fire. An absolute classic. But kinda hold a grudge because this isn't Road Taken. A Light Storm. This slaps. And finally, The World Tree. This is an original song from Fire Emblem Warriors. A lot of people won't recognize this one, but it's one of the better songs on the soundtrack. I would have preferred other songs like the final boss theme, but hey, this is still pretty good. So, that's the whole soundtrack. But there's one more thing I'd like to cover. This beautiful thing came with a special edition of Fire Emblem Three Houses. If yours didn't come with it, well, I guess you're not very special. Was that too mean?
I think that was kind of mean.
They know I don't mean it.
I don't know about that.
There are 33 songs on the CD, and they picked the best of the best, supposedly. And it's, well, let's look at it. It starts with the main theme and progresses through a lot of the casual, slice-of-life songs that I love oh so much. It even has Blue Skies in a Battle. Oh, bless. 12 tracks in, we hit Awakening, which I haven't mentioned because I needed something to scream about here. This song plays at a pivotal moment in the game, and it's marvelous. This is definitely one of the more sleeper hits on the soundtrack, so please give it some more love. It starts off with simple chanting that you hear whenever you talk to Sothis. But then it explodes into a full-blown orchestra. It's so very special. There are some other solid songs on here, like Descent, Unfulfilled, and Roar of Dominion. And then we hit the abomination that is Scales of the Goddess. Now I really didn't like Shambhala's music. But there's nothing more infuriating than these 4 notes. I hate this song. It gets stuck in my head everywhere. When I first heard it, I just hated it immediately. And it plays through all of part 2. If I hear those stupid first 4 notes even once, it's in my head all day. I'm editing this right now and it's stuck in my head. I really don't like this song. Later in the album, you hit the main theme of the houses, and they're just painfully generic to me. The King of Lions and Golden Deer and Crescent Moon just don't do anything for me, unfortunately. I might just have sore feelings toward them because right after them is all 3 Shambhala songs that make me so angry! But it's okay because Between Heaven and Earth comes shortly after. The sound selection ends with A Place to Rest, the S support theme, and the short version of The Edge of Dawn. The soundtrack has a very strong beginning, a weak middle, and then a pretty strong ending. It's a good sound selection CD. I would give it a 7.5 out of 10, mostly because the first half of the soundtrack just slaps. It's up to you, Folding Winds. F you. And that's that. That's all of Three Houses' soundtrack. This video is probably very long. Thank you if you've made it this far. You're a hero. You're a trooper. I still haven't given this soundtrack a final score. Even if they are pretty toxic in journalism, I am a sucker for review scores. So of course I have to incorporate them here. The whole soundtrack of Fire Emblem Three Houses is pretty good. It's definitely a lower point in the series, especially as of late, but it still has some really fire tracks that we'll be listening to for years. 7 out of 10. Of course, this is just my own personal opinion. I'm sure I'm the only person in the world who doesn't care for Folding Winds. There are a bunch of songs I didn't cover from the soundtrack. If I didn't list them, and they were your favorite, it's because I found them not worthy of a mention, which you might find insulting. I'm sorry. But thank you for watching this long video about video game music. Let me know if you enjoyed this and if you'd like to see more in the future. I'd love to make a 4-hour video talking about Xenoblade Chronicles music. That sounds like a lot of work though. But it'd be worth it! It's possible that I revisit this soundtrack in a later video once we get new songs in the DLC. We'll see though. Anyways, you're all great. I'll see you all later.